Let me ask you something. If I presented you with two options, I'm going to give you the option to drive a 2023 Rolls Royce, and I'm going to give you the option to drive a 1973 Dodge Dart. Which option are you choosing? Better yet, let's look at it like this. Let's say you're married, two young kids. You've got the option to live and work in Boulder, Colorado, a college town with a low crime rate. Most people would consider Boulder to be a safe place to raise a family. Now, while raising your family in the safe city of Boulder, I'm going to pay you $6 million a year. All right, that's option A. Option B. You have the opportunity to live and work in Jackson, Mississippi, more commonly known as the shithole. One of my good friends was born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. I have visited the city before. I am not exaggerating when I tell you this. That dump is like a third world country. Every city has a bad part of town, but in Jackson, the entire city is the bad part of town. All right, you have the opportunity to raise your family in Jackson, Mississippi, and since I'm such a nice guy, I'm going to give you a bulletproof vest as your signing bonus. I'm also going to pay you $300,000 a year. All right, so take a second here to compare option A and option B. Which one are you choosing? 100% of you did not take 1 second to make that decision. You're taking that $6 million and raising your family in the safer city of Boulder, Colorado. Now, with that being the case, why is the media continuing to make a big deal about Deion Sanders making the same exact decision for him and his family? If these shitfucks in the media were faced with the same decision, every single one of them is going to make the same decision that Deion Sanders made. Most of these people in the media, they would be afraid to fly over Jackson, Mississippi, much less live there. What I'm about to share with you guys, this is one of the many reasons that I cannot stand the mainstream media. Last night, we're sitting at the kids' flag football game with my future in-laws, and my girlfriend's dad, he asked if I had seen this 60 Minutes interview with Deion Sanders. Now, obviously, I tell him no. I'm not 100 years old. I don't spend my Sunday evenings watching 60 Minutes on CBS. But he told me that I had to check it out. He was telling me how funny and entertaining that Deion Sanders was during this interview, but that's not what caught my attention. What caught my attention was this narrative that CBS tried to push during the segment. This same tired, unoriginal, painfully boring narrative that doofus Jamel Hill and the original huge embarrassing failure Bomani Jones have been pushing for months now. You know, there is so much positivity that the media could be talking about with Deion Sanders. This dude is so inspirational. He's great with kids. In the span of 9 months, he completely revitalized a dead program. He gave this new sense of life to the city of Boulder. I didn't know this until recently, but Deion Sanders, he doesn't curse at his players and fellow coaches. Actually, I don't think he curses in general, which would automatically disqualify him from appearing on this particular channel. He consistently brings his faith in God into his message, which for some reason has pissed off people like Jason Whitlock, and I really don't understand why. This dude was emotionally triggered because Deion Sanders is a Christian who had Lil Wayne lead his team onto the football field Saturday. Jason Whitlock claimed that the Colorado sideline looked like a gangster rap video. He accused Deion Sanders of basically using his faith while not living his faith. Jason Whitlock often makes good points, but I could not disagree with him more on this one. This is why so many people have a problem with religion. I criticize people here on the channel all the time, but I have never once questioned someone's faith or religion. I don't think it's right to question the faith of Deion Sanders because he has Lil Wayne leading his team onto the football field. Jason Whitlock claimed it should have been Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin? This wasn't a gospel concert. This wasn't a church service. It was a college football game. Kind of hard to get your kids hyped up for the game with Kirk Franklin singing Amazing Grace. Like I said, though, there is so much positivity that the media could focus on with Deion Sanders, but all they want to focus on is the negative. And most of these negatives, they have no basis in reality. These are created narratives to fit in, or created negatives to fit a narrative. CBS gave this assignment to interview Deion Sanders to some super nerd named John Wertheim. Throughout the segment, the super nerd tried to frame this narrative that Deion Sanders abandoned an HBCU for a mostly white college. He abandoned a city that was 83% black to go live in a city that's 1% black. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. 2 years ago, I seem to remember Rob Manfred moving the All-Star game in Major League Baseball from Atlanta to Denver. Atlanta, a city that is predominantly black. Denver, a city that is predominantly white. I also seem to remember the mainstream media celebrating that decision. Rob Manfred is so courageous! He's combating mythical racism! He's standing up for the black man by moving the All-Star game to the white paradise. Someone please explain to me the difference here. When Rob Manfred moved the All-Star game, it was to combat mythical racism. When Deion Sanders moves to Colorado, he's abandoning his own community. Doesn't make sense to me, but what the hell do I know? I'm not a shit fuck. John Wertheim, he played on the faith of Deion Sanders. 3 years ago, Deion, he claimed that God called him collect and told him to go to Jackson State. According to CBS, he used the same line when he tried to justify his move to Colorado. They also insinuated that Deion Sanders abandoned Jackson State like a thief in the night. Watch for yourself. Does that sound like unbiased reporting to you? Did you notice how they framed this narrative that Deion Sanders abandoned Jackson State when there was still work to be done? You heard him mention opportunity. That's all this move was about. Opportunity. He was presented with a better opportunity and he took it. Everyone else would have done the same thing, But, in the eyes of the media, because it's a black man leaving an HBCU for a mostly white school, it's got to be all about race. Now, keep in mind, this is coming from the same media that claims black men are not given enough opportunities to be a head coach. When they're not given opportunities, it's mythical racism. When they are given opportunities, they're criticized for leaving an HBCU. I mean, you just can't win with these people. CBS also failed to mention the real reason that Deion Sanders left Jackson State, or one of the many real reasons that he left. They were shortchanging him on his bonus. He was supposed to receive 10% of all ticket sales over a certain amount. If I remember correctly, I think he was supposed to receive 10% of the revenue on ticket sales that were over 30,000 tickets sold. Obviously, Deion Sanders easily hit that benchmark, but Jackson State never paid him. Of course, the media always fails to mention that. Why let those pesky little details get in the way of furthering their twisted narrative? Tomeika Reed is the women's basketball coach at Jackson State. After watching this hit piece on Deion Sanders Sunday night, Tomeika Reed was appalled. She was outraged. She got on social media and ripped into CBS. Now, when I saw this headline in the New York Post, I thought she was coming to the defense of Deion Sanders. I thought she was going to support the man that brought in millions of dollars in revenue to this struggling school, struggling program. Millions of dollars in revenue that was used to fund sports that don't attract flies to a fresh turd like low-level women's college basketball. Tomeika Reed, though, she was not upset about the bullshit narrative that CBS framed with Deion Sanders. She wasn't upset with CBS accusing him of abandoning this dump known as Jackson, Mississippi. Tomeika Reed was upset with how CBS showed the city of Jackson to America. At one point, they were comparing the cities of Boulder and Jackson. They were talking about the distance between the cities being 1,000 miles apart, but the difference between them visually is millions of miles apart. When comparing Boulder to Jackson, Boulder is like the beautiful supermodel. Jackson is like the super Lizzo. Watch it for yourself. That is what made her mad. She didn't get pissed off because CBS framed a false narrative about Deion Sanders. She got pissed off because CBS showed America what the city of Jackson, Mississippi looks like. She was mad because CBS, without intending to do so, they actually showed America another reason why Deion Sanders left this shithole. Tomeika Reed claimed that CBS could have shown the nicer parts of Jackson instead of showing dilapidated houses. Well, Tomeika Reed, I would imagine that CBS tried to find a nice part of Jackson to show, but it just doesn't exist. I understand now why Deion Sanders was so combative with the media after Colorado beat TCU. Now, I did not agree with him biting into the shit sandwich of mythical racism, but now at least I have a little bit of a better understanding as to why he did. I would imagine that it gets tiring. I would imagine that it is absolutely exhausting defending yourself against the same bullshit day after day after day. I don't even know Deion Sanders, and I'm pissed off for him. I was watching that piece on CBS this afternoon. I was getting aggravated for him. The entire purpose of that interview was to frame Deion Sanders as the bad guy, the black man who abandoned the HBCU for the white school. Now, to his credit, Deion Sanders did his best to shut it down, but when he did that, CBS claimed he's avoiding the topic, he's being aloof. Our media absolutely sucks. I mean, they suck. I don't know how guys like Deion Sanders put up with them. But give me your thoughts. Deion Sanders, he gives an interview to 60 Minutes, and CBS frames the same tired narrative that he just up and abandoned Jackson State. I'm sure some of you guys have seen the full interview. What did you think about it? Also, what do you think about Jason Whitlock attacking or maybe questioning the faith of Deion Sanders? What do you think about that? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. I appreciate you guys and your continued support. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.